Hi, I'm Danny, and this is my September wrap-up. So the first book I read this month was Air Fire by Sarah J. Maas, and this book was a lot heavier than the previous book. I mean, the previous book had some heaviness, but this, you got to see a lot more of Selena and how she feels about herself. She was less cocky. Don't get me wrong, she was still cocky. So Selena wouldn't be herself without being cocky. But you also got to see more of Aylin than just Selena. You got to see a little more of Aylin and get a little more of Aylin's backstory about everything that happened to her parents and the night they died. And you even got to see some characters from The Assassin's Blade, which I have not read yet. I only know because they're in The Assassin's Blade because I've heard people constantly mention it in their reviews. So I can't wait to get to that one and kind of see where these characters started out from and where they ended up. But this book was awesome. It was much slower than the previous books. Like the previous books were a little slowness and then action and a little slowness and then action, and this was mostly just slowness, but it definitely had its action scenes. I really liked this one and I gave it a 4-star on Goodreads. The next book that I could not wait to get my hands on as soon as I finished Air Fire, which luckily for me showed up the very day I finished Air Fire, is Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. Now this book has been all over BookTube. Everyone was anticipating this book and it did not disappoint. I loved it. I loved everything about it. And unfortunately, I cannot tell you much about this book because of spoilers, but you got to see a lot more of Aylin than Selena in this book, and as you can see from my multicolored bookmarks, these were like all my favorite scenes. Whether they were sweet moments or action-packed moments or just something I found funny, I had to mark them because I knew one day I'd want to re-look at that section. And all the things I was anticipating to happen in this book definitely did not disappoint. The alien rescue, Aylin and Manon meeting each other, to seeing Rowan. I'd hoped we'd see him, not just like what he's doing back in oh god, what's the name of the place? So I was hoping that we'd actually see him in this book, like him and Aylin together, you know, the team matched back up. It's Karanam, I think it's Karanam, but I'd hoped to see them kind of bind powers again. Unfortunately, that did not happen, but Rowan did come back, and I was so happy to see him. And you got to learn a whole lot more, and there was a twist at the end of this book that I was like, oh my god. I so did not see it coming, and I love that. This whole book, every time I thought I knew where something was going, I'm like, okay, this is gonna happen next, or I suspect that this is gonna happen. It either did or did not happen, but it was never what you thought it was. Like there was a point here where my heart literally just sank between Aylin and Arobin. He did something, I'm not gonna say what, and my heart just sank, and I'm like, oh my god, what's gonna happen now? Oh my god. But I love this book, and I just loved everything about this book. And let's just say that some ships were sank in this book. I'm not gonna say which ship. I gave this a 50 stars out of 5 on Goodreads. It was just everything I hoped for and so much more, and I cannot wait. It's gonna be torture waiting for book 5. Or is it technically book 6? Because this is one thing I cannot figure out, because there's Throne of Glass, there's Crown of Midnight, there's Air of Fire, there is The Assassin's Blade, and then there's Queen of Shadows. So technically wouldn't Queen of Shadows be book 5 and The Assassin's Blade be book 1, because it's like 0.5, and then there's Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, Air of Fire, and then the Queen of Shadows. So I don't know if you can technically call this book 5, and the next one is book 6, and the one after that will be book 7. Either way, I cannot wait for the next book. Some ish is gonna go down. And next, the ebooks that I read this month. I read quite a few more ebooks than I originally thought I would. I just kind of got in an ebook mood, I guess you could say. The first book I read this month is I don't know if you guys can see it. See if I can dim my screen a little bit. So the first book I read this month is The Vampire Salvation. This is about a woman who has been lusting after this this vampire for like the last year. She works for a guy running to become the next president, and this vampire is one of the bodyguards to the president. The president knows he's a vampire, but she does not. And it is just basically about them coming together. I can't really give you much about the story without giving away the whole plot. I gave this book a 3.5 rating on Goodreads. The next book I read was Love and Lies by Laura Leigh. This is about Slade and Jesse. I'm sorry for the whole white balance thing. My phone's knocking off my white balance. I am sorry. This is about Slade and Jesse. Slade was Jesse's first love and her first. But soon after they start their relationship, he walks away from her to wed another woman. But all is not as it seems in this book. I can't give away too much without, again, giving away the plot. This was a pretty short story. I think it was about 200 pages. Next I read Seduced by the Cajun Werewolf. This is about Laurent and Violet. Laurent was for sure that Violet was his mate, and then she disappeared for about, I think it's 100 years. 200 years later, she shows up looking for him, but not only is she not human anymore, she is a vampire. And all of her memories of him and their time together have been blocked from her by the person who turned her into a vampire, and that same person trained her to be an assassin, and Laurent is her next target. And I gave this a 3-star rating on Goodreads. From my very last book I read this month, I read Yours for Eternity, and this is a bind-up of 3 different stories by Hannah Halliwell, Alexandra Ivy, and Catherine O'Reilly. And these are just basically 3 different erotic stories, and I really liked these actually. Usually erotica gives about a 3-star rating for me, but I actually gave this book a 4-star rating. I could actually feel the emotions leaping off the page at me. Not just the sexual tension, but the actual feelings. I could actually feel like the characters actually felt something for each other and not were just pulled together by lust and then, oops, I fell for you. Usually erotica novels leave me feeling like that, but I ended up really liking this book in the end, and I gave this a 4-star rating on Goodreads. That is all the books I read in September, and I will see you guys next week. Oh, one last thing. My birthday has recently passed, and I have books to haul for you guys, so look forward to that coming up soon. Bye!